Hi everybody, so this is going to be our very last video for geometry. Today we're going to be doing parts of lesson 10. I'm going to be doing the homework question for the video and you guys will be doing exercise 2 as the homework, and I'll explain what to do with that as soon as I finish talking about the homework question here. So I'm doing the homework question here as the video because it has a little bit more of a complicated setup, but the other one's a little easier to get started on. So I swapped them so that we'll be doing the one that's a little harder together. So the first thing here is that we've got these ratios, and ratios are sometimes hard to put onto the picture. So I've done that already for us. Whenever you have a ratio, you could put an X with everything and then solve from there. So that's what I've started with. And you can see that if you put all of those arcs together, it does make up the whole circle. This one plus this one plus this one plus this one is the whole circle, and the whole circle is going to be 360 degrees. So if we were to add all of those together, it will equal 360. So that means that x is going to equal 10 if we were to solve that. So I could change all of these from being 7x to being 70 because x equals 10, so we can multiply. And we'll just do that for all of those. So 8x becomes 80, 12x becomes 120, and 9x becomes 90. So having the arcs known is going to make this a whole lot easier to find the rest of these angles. And we're going to find every angle that's in red. So to start, I'm going to use one of the rules that we did in Unit 9, and that is that whenever you have an inscribed angle, so an angle that is formed by two chords, and those two chords meet at one point here, it means that the inscribed angle, angle 1 in this case, is going to be equal to half of the intercepted arc. The intercepted arc is made by connecting the endpoints of those two chords that go through the circle and form the arc here. So that is 80, so that means that angle 1 is going to be half of 80, which is going to be 40. So I'm just going to write 40 right here. That's 40 degrees. All of the numbers I'm writing in here are going to be degrees. So you can do the same exact thing for angle 2. Angle 2 is formed by these two chords, which means it'll be half of 120. So that means angle 2 is going to be 60 degrees. Try the same thing for angle 3. Take a look at angle 3. You can see that it should be half of 70 because we've got these two lines. Here 70. So half of 70 is 35 degrees. The same rule is actually going to apply to angle 9. Okay, so angle 9 is formed by this chord, which is a secant line because it goes through the circle twice, and this tangent line. And whenever you have a secant and a tangent, this angle will be equal to half of this arc. It's still the arc in between the two lines that make up the angle. Okay, so if we do 70 plus 80 and then take that answer and divide it by 2, that's going to be equal to angle 9. So that means that angle 9 should equal 75. So again, I got that by doing 70 plus 80. 70 plus 80 is 150. And if you take that and divide it by 2 or multiply it times 1/2, you're going to get 75. And if you're confused on any of the stuff that I'm doing right now, all of that is stuff that I explained in earlier videos for Unit 9. So we can go ahead and figure out the rest of these angles in a whole bunch of other ways. You don't have to use just circle rules. Angles 4 and 6 you could figure out based on one of the formulas we learned, which is that this arc plus this arc divided by 2 will equal these two angles here. You can do that, Or you can even do something we did earlier in the year, which was that whenever you have a triangle, all three angles in the triangle are going to add up to 180. So if you did 60 plus 35, you're going to get 95. And if you do 180 minus 95, you'll get whatever angle 4 is. So that means that angle 4 is going to be 85. That's 85 degrees. And we have this X shape right here. And in the very beginning of the year, we learned that whenever there's an X shape like this, formed by two straight lines, then the vertical angles will always be congruent. Whoops, let's write the correct number there, 85. So angle 4 and angle 6 are both 85. Now, angle 5 and angle 7 are also vertical angles, so those will also be congruent to each other. They'll be the same number. And we can figure out what number that is because if you take a look at, let's say, angles 4 and 5, if you put them together, they make up a straight line. And all straight lines are 180 degrees. So that means 85 plus angle 5 will equal 180. So that means angle 5 can only be 95 degrees. And you can do the same thing to figure out angle 7. Or you can just say that angle 5 and angle 7 will be the same because they're vertical angles. And that makes this also 95 degrees. So we've got 4 angles left. We've got 8, 10, 11, and 12. You don't have to do them in any specific order. I know I've been going generally in numerical order, but you can do them in any order that you see. So just to show that, I'm going to do angle 12 right now. Angle 12 is something that you can figure out based on one of the equations we did in the circle unit, which is whenever you have an external angle out here, outside of the circle, that angle is going to be equal to half of the difference between the big arc formed here and the small arc here. So if we did angle F, which is angle 12, that is going to be equal to half of the big arc, 120, minus the little arc, 80. So again, that's half of 40, which is 20. So we've got angle 12 equaling 20. And there's more than one way to figure that out, and I'll show you another way to make sure that that's correct once we get the other numbers done. So let's take a look at angle 8 right now. So angle 8 is going to be, let's see, if we trace out this triangle here, and you'll see why I'm tracing this out in a second. If we trace out this triangle, we could figure out what this angle is. And if we know that angle, then we could figure out angle 8 because those are going to be a linear pair, they're going to be supplementary, they're going to add up to 180. That's something that you guys definitely know how to do. But we have that other rule too, that whenever you have a picture that looks like this angle plus this angle will equal that angle. In the beginning of the year, I used to draw this picture all the time. Okay, if we had angles 1, 2, and 3, then angle 1 plus angle 2 will equal angle 3. So that's the same thing here. You don't have to do it that way. You could just look at this and say, okay, let me figure out what that blank angle is. Okay, the blank angle I'm talking about is this one right here. So let's do that. You know, you're going to get the same answer either way. I'm going to figure out that one because that one is probably a little bit easier for most people to figure out. So if we do 45 plus 95, we're going to get 135. And if we do 180 minus 135, we'll get this angle to be 45 degrees. Right? I got that because of that triangle. And just to make sure we're right, you could also tell that that's going to be 45 degrees because this is an inscribed angle to that 90-degree arc. So 45 is half of 90. We know that that's got to be the correct number anyway. And whenever you do something like this, it should all kind of make sense like that. You're not going to have anything that, contradicts itself. So if that's 45, then that means that angle 8 is going to have to be 135, because 45 plus 135 equals 180. And because of all that, that means this angle is also 45. Okay, those two 45s are vertical angles. And if you know that that's 45 and this other angle over here is 20, then that means that angle 11 is going to have to be 115, for the same reason as before, that all three angles in a triangle add up to 180. And if that's 115, and angle 11 and 12 make up a straight line, then that means that angle 10 has to be 65 degrees. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to do exercise 2 for homework, and since there's so many different ways you can get these answers, I'm not going to be looking for what formula you used and all of that, and it's also going to be really hard for me to see on Google Classroom what you're writing in all of these little spots because it is pretty small. So what I've decided to do for this one is, instead of you guys taking a picture of your work and submitting it through Google Classroom, you're going to fill out a Google quiz, which will have stuff like this on it, where angle 1 is equal to something, angle 2 is equal to something, and you're just going to put in the correct answer there. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is fill in this whole picture, and then you're going to put your answers on the Google quiz. And don't be afraid of having decimals in this. You're not going to have any crazy decimals, but you can have stuff that says 0.5, because a lot of our rules that we were talking about before include dividing things by 2, or multiplying times 1/2, and whenever you've got an odd number, you're going to have 0.5 in there. So that's something to be mindful of. Also, angle 8 right here, you can't find angle 8 where it is located there, okay, because this is not a straight line, this is part of a curve. So instead of having angle 8 there, the angle 8 that I want you guys to do would be this one right there. Okay, so it's formed by angle PAT. That's going to be your angle 8 when you put it in the Google quiz. So that's it for geometry. That's our last assignment. Check out Google Classroom, make sure you've turned in all of your assignments, and if you have, then you're done. So I hope you have a great summer, and I hope you guys are very successful next year.